Hello fellow Reaperites and welcome to the weekly tutorial. Today we're going to look at generating backing vocals from a single vocal recording using standard stock Reaper plugins. So I've got a recording here, and in my chorus I've just got a single vocal, and I'd quite like to generate some backing vocals. I didn't record them at the time. I can't get the vocalist back in, so I'm going to generate them myself. So let's have a listen to what the track sounds like at the moment. Okay, so to start off with, I'm going to do a simple trick to simulate a male vocal and another female vocal by using a pitch shifter to create an octave down and an octave up. So I'll go into that track, go into the effects, and if you look in pitch correction, there's a VST called repitch, which I'll put on the track. And you may notice I've got a compressor and an EQ already on the vocal. I'm going to put the pitch shifter in the middle. The reason being is that the compressor will create a good signal level going into this pitch shifter, and I don't really want to do any EQ until after I've gone through this process of pitch shifting. So generally speaking, the pitch shifter is for changing the pitch of an existing vocal, so it's set up to just have the fully wet signal and none of the original signal in there. Because I want to generate this in addition to my original vocal, I'm going to put the dry signal up to 0 dB, and so I've now got the octaves and the original vocal together. So let's start off by doing an octave below to simulate a male vocal. I'm just going to solo this at the moment so you can hear it on its own. I'm going to go down 12 semitones, which is an octave, on the pitch shift. Let's have a listen to that. Up above all space and time, rising high. It doesn't sound quite right. There's something artificial about the voice, and that's because when you change a voice, you need to change the formants or the resonant frequencies of the voice to compensate. So we've gone down 12 semitones. Let's shift the formant up 12 semitones and have another listen. Rising high, up above all space and time, rising high. It's a bit better, but still a little artificial to my ears. So you play around with this a bit. I tried a few options and came up with 7 semitones as the best shift for the formant. And that sounds like this. Rising high, up above all space and time. So that to my ears sounds a bit more like a human being singing. So let's mix that in with the original. Have a listen. Rising high, up above all space and time. So I think they blend together quite well. So I'm going to do another pitch shift. I'm going to put it up an octave in addition to the 2 I've got to simulate another female vocalist, a very high pitched singer. So I'm going to add another shifter. I'm going to solo it for now and put it up 12 semitones. Let's put the formant back to 0. If we don't change the formant, have a listen. It sounds very artificial and like a sort of kid's toy. So I need to do the opposite. Up 12 semitones on the shift, down 12 semitones on the formant shift. Have a listen again. very high, but it sounds a bit Diana Ross and the Supremes to my ears. and mixed in with the other vocals, I think it'll give a nice sheen on the top end. So let's mix all three together.
Rising high, up above all space and time. Rising high, floating, can you feel the rise?
And let's have a listen with the music.
Rising high, up above all space and time. Rising high, floating, can you feel the rise?
So I think that blends in quite well. If you think that the relative vocals are a bit loud, you can change the volumes of each pitch shifter down at the bottom here. I quite like the volumes they are at the moment. And you can also create a stereo spread, which is good for creating, again, the illusion that there are vocalists to spread around the stereo stage. So we could move the male vocal halfway to the left. We could move the female vocal halfway to the right. Just so I'll have a listen.
Rising high, up above all space and time. Rising high, floating, can you feel the rise?
And I prefer that. That sounds like there's three vocalists sort of spread around the stage, which sounds much nicer to my ears. Now let's look at another way of generating backing vocals. Instead of just pure octaves up and down, often you want to generate harmonies. And I'll show you a way of doing this. Let's start off by switching off temporarily the octaves so we can start with the basic vocal again. So now we're back to the original.
Rising high, up above.
So now I want to generate harmony, and the easiest way of doing this is creating a duplicate track from this, which will then use a MIDI-controlled pitch shifter to generate the harmonies as we go through. This gives us a lot of flexibility, as you'll see. So I'm going to take the original vocal and hit D to duplicate it, and let's call this Harmony Vox. And what I'm going to do is remove the repitch. So let's remove that. And I'm going to add in a new plugin here. If I go into the tools, there's a plugin called Revoice. And just like with my repitch, I'm going to put it in between the compressor and the EQ, so it gets a good strong signal for doing the pitch changes. So let me just explain how this works. It basically allows you to generate number of voices. I'm just going to go for one voice in this example, just to give you the introduction. And the key things are, let me just go, the gain of the voice is how loud it is in the mix. So let's put it at parity with the original. And then it needs a MIDI input. And the MIDI note here, C4, is the relative change you want in the voice. So if you play C on the MIDI input all the way through, the voice won't change. If you play D the whole way through, everything would be put up a major second. I think it'll become clear as we go through the example. So without a MIDI input, nothing happens. So if I solo this channel and play it, you hear silence because it needs a MIDI input for you to actually be able to hear the vocal. So let's add another channel. And we'll call this one Harmony Control. This is our MIDI channel. And we'll just create a MIDI input for this. So let's edit this. So if I just write, so here's C4 in the middle. If I just draw a note all the way through. So now we should be able to hear it. Now, why can't we hear it? Because I haven't connected the MIDI input to that particular vocal channel. So I've got MIDI here on its own, I've got the vocal on its own, but they're not connected. So if I take the sends and receives and drag to the harmony vocal, and you see MIDI all is being sent to MIDI all on the other channel. Now, if I play it,
Rising high.
hooray, we've got the vocal playing.
Up above all space and time. Rising high.
So even just playing the C note, which does no pitch changes, you can use it as a MIDI gate to decide when the vocal plays and when it doesn't. So let me just show you that. Let me shorten this just to do the first phrase. So again, when I play, you'll hear just rising high and then nothing else.
Rising high.
So if we just wanted to play the rising high parts of the vocal, I could just copy that over to the relative sections I'm interested in. Let's just do the 4 phrases. And last one. Okay, so now we've just got those 4 phrases playing. Let's play it through and have a listen.
Rising high. Rising high. Can you feel? Rising high.
Okay, so you've heard some little quirks while I've been moving things around, but now I've got it all on the right note.
Flying higher.
Okay, so there's no harmonies yet. We're just doing the original notes. So now we can move these MIDI notes around and get a harmony. So standard sort of harmony is to do things like thirds. So if I move all of these notes, let's select them all, and I move them all down a third. Now let's have a listen.
Rising high.
So it's moved it down a third. Let's play it with the original part.
Rising high. Up above all space and time.
So straight away you notice something that doesn't sound right because harmonies aren't fixed. Harmonies tend to move from the major third to the minor third and in between. So I moved down a major third from C down to A flat, but minor third is A, and we might have to move the notes around a little bit. So let me give you an example of that. Let's zoom in a bit on these notes so you can see clearly what I'm doing. So let's put the first note sounded right, so let's just leave that as it is. And then let's make the second note the minor third instead of the major third down. And let's have a listen.
Rising high.
Perfect. So let's do that on the rest and see if that works. It might not always work. You might have to do some tweaks here. So minor third for the second 2 notes in that phrase, and minor third for the last 2 notes in that phrase. Let's have a listen to the whole of that section.
Rising high. Up above all space and time. Rising high. Floating, can you feel the rise? Rising high. Up above all space and time. Flying higher. Can you feel?
Okay, that last one didn't sound quite right. I've also noticed the timing's slightly out. I could always go back and tweak that later. The second note starts a bit earlier. So let's put it back down to the major third here. Let's just have a listen to that last one.
Flying higher. Can you?
That sounds good. So let's just sort out where these note changes. They're a little bit earlier. Okay, so now we've got our third harmony. let's switch everything back on and see how it sounds. Let's come out of here. Let's go back to the first vocal where we added the upper octave and the lower octave and put that in. So now we have the original vocal, an octave down to simulate a male voice, the octave up to simulate a high female voice, and a harmony part just to add more flavour to it. So let's listen to the whole thing with the music. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this week's tutorial. I'll be back the same time next week. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe below, and I'll see you next Saturday. Bye for now.